Hey guys, welcome back to another video. So this video is going to be the process of how I made one of my new cat dolls, part of my Action Cat series called Action Cats. The cat's doing weird things. So the first one, we're starting off with the pooping cat. So it's got a little pooping cat pose, comes complete with some poopy props. But anyway, this is the first little kitty. So he is currently up for grabs in my shop, and payment plans are also welcome. So a little look at his little poopy face. He's got like a little pouty, sculpted him with like a little pouty, the poop pout. And he's based on a British short hair, so like a silver tabby colour, British short hair. So polymer clay head and feet, faux fur body. He does have a ball and socket armature inside, so you can pose him into, you know, a nice little poopy pose. And I have airbrushed the faux fur to have these patterns on them, so they're similar on both sides. And also the poopy props are polymer clay as well, so that's just a little bit funny. So if you want to know how I made him, then keep watching. Alright, so I'm starting off with an aluminium foil core, and this was basically acts as like a skull, and then I'm going to be covering it with some Sculpting Original. So this Sculpting Original is the softer type of polymer clay. You can also get harder clays like Super Sculpting or Sculpting Firm, but I particularly like working with softer clays, so I tend to go with Sculpting Original. It's white colour and it comes in all different size blocks. Now, a good foundation of the skull is to get a really good shape for the head, and that makes it so much easier to then sculpt the shape of the actual head and all the features and everything. So I've got a nice good solid foundation to begin with, and then I'm going to wrap it around with a nice layer of that polymer clay to begin with, and then I can start picking out some structure and details at the end. So I start mapping out where I want the snout to be, and because this one is a pooping kitty, I want the face to sort of be a little bit puckered, so I have to sort of change the way the muzzle is sitting, so it's a little bit more puckered looking. Now that I've mapped out a really rough shape of where I want the lower jaw to go and where I want the nose to go, I can start adding some really rough details. So I'm going in with a little bit of Super Sculpting, and that's like a beige coloured Sculpting, and I use that for a lot of cat noses, gums, anything that needs like a beigey coloured semi-transparent skin tone, and it works really well for cat noses. So I generally use that and attach it to the head, basically sculpting it into a triangle shape and then carving out all those little nostril details and everything. Then I can start adding the, lips, the top of the muzzle to underneath the nose. And again, this is a little bit more work because I need to try and make it look like it's puckered. So I sort of pinch it forward a little bit than what I normally do. Now, I don't really have a complete cat design in my head. I'm just sort of going with the flow, but I knew I wanted the cat to have a bigger head because I made that yawning cat was kind of turned out like a Siamese kitten face, so it was a little bit slimmer, so I wanted to add a bigger faced cat for this one. So it ended up being a British short hair. I ended up using my reference images from a British short hair, so we're going with a British short hair. Alright, once we've done those puckered lips, then we can move on to just filling up the top of the head. So I'm going and making a little nose bridge for this one before I add the eyes in, and I can start mapping out those upper head details. Now for the eyes, so I'm using some glass cabochon eyes, and they do have a flat back, so when I attach these eyes to the head, I need to make like a little eye socket, and I do that by doing a little ball of clay, roughly the same size, and just sort of flattening it out where I want the eye to sit, and then I can place them in place. I look at the head from all different angles as well to make sure everything is symmetrical and nothing is sitting sort of further back or further forward, so I always try and get it nice and symmetrical. Now that I've popped them in place, with the cat eyes, a little bit more work needs to be done on the placement because we don't want eyes going off in a totally different direction. So you just want, again, look at it from all angles and make sure that the eyes aren't looking off they're symmetrical, right? And then I can start working on the eyelids. So for this particular one, I wanted it to be a little squinty because the cat's doing a poop, right? So we need a squinty, pouty face. So I'm going to do some pretty heavy eyelids for this. Now, I do want to say, originally I used these particular eyes for the face, and I had sculpted most of the face and I really wasn't happy with the way it was looking, and I sort of come to the conclusion that I need to use bigger cabochons. So I kind of ripped these eyes out and replaced them with bigger cabochons, and they look much better than what these are way too small for the size of the head. So yeah, I will show the process of that, replacing the eyes, because I persevered with these particular eyes and it just wasn't sitting right with me. So I came back to it. I left it for a day, came back to it twice, and I wasn't happy with it. So yeah, I figured it was the eye size because cats have really big eyes, right? So next, what I did was basically do those heavy eyelids by rolling out a wormy piece of clay and laying it over the top, and I can sort of manipulate it into a look that I want. So again, it's going to be heavily closed with just like a little slit because it's a pooping cat. So yeah, I just roll it on the top and try and cover a lot of that eye. Alright, so I moved on with the ears because sometimes adding the ears sort of brings the head together. So I wanted to add the ears to make sure I wasn't choosing the wrong thing. So I basically roughly shaped the ears into a pretty rough shape. So I'm going to be angling these quite a lot as well. So I'm going to angle them just to begin with and then refine it once it's been put on the head, because I want them to be flat, like a pooping cat, right? I want it to be flat. So when I'm placing them on top of the head, I am trying to make them in a symmetrical shape. So I'm always spending a bit of time to place them in the correct places and spin the head around the right way to make sure I'm looking at it from all angles. And I played around with the sizing of the ears a little bit as well, because again, the face was throwing me off. There was something not quite right about the whole face to begin with. So I played around with the ears because I thought it might have been the ears, but in the end, it was the eyes. So at this point, I was kind of realizing something was off with the eyes, so I started playing around with them a little bit to see if I could get them to work before having to rip them out and put new ones in. So I'm just sticking my little needle tool in and sort of angling them a little bit different to see if that makes a difference, but in the end it just didn't. And then I also ended up taking the whole eyelid off to have a look at it again and make sure, is this my eyes? Is there something off about this? And then I persisted and tried again with another little trial with the eyelids. Oh, I tried it again. At the end of the day, I just ended up ripping them out and using a slightly larger cabochon. So I think I used a 12mm, so they're quite big. We all know cat's eyes are quite big anyway, so this was the correct size to use. The other one I used was a 10mm, and it was way too small. So I ripped them out, put them new eyes in, and did a whole new eyelid shape and form. So now I can start building up the rest of the head. So because I'm using a British short hair model, their heads are quite boxy. So I'm sort of building up that brow line, and also the muzzle area is quite boxy as well and sort of flat. But again, we want that poutiness. We want the poopy pout. So just building up that little brow line bit, creating some little indentations that hopefully carry through when I apply the faux fur on the top. Usually they do if they're deep enough. And then I can start attaching the ears for pretty much the last part. And as soon as I changed these eyes, I was just like, this is much better. Okay, same deal with the ears, so I'm just plopping them back on after I cut them off. I'm using the same ears as I used before because they were good size and on a good angle, so I'm just popping them on and making sure they're going to be sitting in the right spot and they're both symmetrical. And then we can pop it in the oven to be baked, and once it's cool I can start painting all of the features together. So I'm just painting around the eyes for this one and a little bit around the mouth because I'm doing a silver tabby British short hair colour. I did have a lot of requests for this one to be a red and an orange cat, but I just wasn't feeling the orange cat vibe. So with the next batch of action cats, I promise I'll add a orange cat to it. But this one, I was feeling silver tabby vibes to it. That's the vision that I had in my head. So I'm just going around and painting some small areas around the eyes, a little bit around the nose and the mouth in black because they have those little black highlights. And I'm using water-based acrylic paints here. I like to use the brand Chromacryl. I find their paints have a really nice consistency and they're not too opaque, so I tend to use them. I also use Liquitex and sometimes Derivian Matiste. And I also mixed some colour to paint inside the head. This one is a little bit of a pink colour, so I used a pink, like a pastel pink colour, and mixed a little bit of grey into it just to mute it down a little bit. It tends to turn it a little bit purple because the grey that I use is blue toned, not a red toned or a yellow toned or anything. It's blue toned, so it makes things a little bit more purple. So that's something to keep in mind. You can always add a little bit of an opposite colour to tone that colour down a little bit. And in the meantime, I sculpted a bunch of paws. I've done so many sculpting paw videos, so I'm not even going to bother including that one. Check out my channel. I have a lot of shorts on sculpting cat paws and wolf paws and everything. So I've attached the armatures to everything, and I can give it a little bit of a paint. I use a ball and socket armature to attach all of my pieces to, and then create a skeleton out of. So let's get making the skeleton. Now I'm using a 1/8 scale armature, and that's my smallest armature for this one because it's a little doll. So basically you need some pliers to pop these sockets on and off, and then you can just make them as big and as short as you want. For the hip joints, I use a plus joint for that one, and it basically lets me add some legs and the rest of the torso piece. So I generally measure out how long I want each leg piece to be by blowing up an image on my computer next to me so I can compare the length and the size of the armature pieces that I need. Then I can start the needle felting process. So I basically wrap the armature in a pipe cleaner, and this basically acts as a catch to catch the polyfill while I'm needle felting it, because the plain plastic ball and socket armature is really slippery, so this just gives something for it to adhere to. Then I can start wrapping the armature around in the polyfill. I start with the neck piece and start needle felting a really basic shape over the entire armature, and then I can start building up the muscle tone. And wrapping a small bit around the legs. And I can start building up the neck joint. So I add a little bit more polyfill this time and just really roughly needle felt it. I'm not doing a really tight needle felt, it's really loose because I'm going to be wrapping it in faux fur anyway. Alright, so this is the faux fur that I'm going to be using. It's a perfect fur for a silver tabby British short hair. I'm basically going to be chopping off most of that black end tip, so it'll be a nice silver colour, and then I'm going to be airbrushing the little black pattern work on top of it. So I basically start off by wrapping it around the torso piece. I don't add the neck this time. The neck is the last thing that I do, but I start off with the torso piece, pin it together, and then cut it out using a small pair of sharp scissors to just cut the backing. I then cut a little slit around each leg piece so I can wrap the faux fur around it. Then I can trim off any excess that I have and start sewing the zipper basically. So I use a good quality thread to sew, and I also use a ladder stitch to sew, and the ladder stitch sort of brings the fabric over on itself and creates a seamless seam line. So it's really great for hiding seam lines in faux fur, and also when I do my lizards I use this same stitch to close the seam lines. So I need to sew the torso piece together as a nice solid base before I can move on and start adding the faux fur to the legs. So it's the same sort of process as I do for the legs as well. I do them all at the same time. Just wrap it around the polyfill and then cut the excess fabric off and go and sew that little stitch and then all the way around the shoulder joint as well. Then the last two pieces are the neck and the tail, and again, same deal, wrap it around and pin it together, chop all the excess off, and then sew it up with a ladder stitch. Once everything is sewn, I can glue the fabric to the polymer clay head. Now I like to use a tacky fabric glue to attach these two. I usually leave it overnight to dry properly, but I adhere it right to the head, also the feet as well, and I'm just going to leave that overnight to get nice and stuck. I'll then apply some faux fur to the head and feet, and now is the best time, is adding the details. So the detailing work I like to do around the eyes, the nose and the mouth, just to bring those details out again, because you tend to lose it when you add the faux fur over the top. So I'm just going over it again with that same black acrylic paint just to sharpen the details and the features. Now it's airbrushing time. So for the airbrush, I'm doing a little bit of airbrushing onto the face just to soften those features again and add a few of those little black silver lines. Just using, I use a fabric paint from Jacquard, and yeah, it's really nice paint to work with. You have to water it down a little bit with some, obviously, water, and so it runs through the airbrush, but basically I'm just doing all the little features like just a little bit of colouring around the eyes, the nose, the little dots on the sides of the muzzle, and also some little black stripes over the face. Then I'll add a little bit of black colour to the paw pads just to go around the toe beans and add a little bit more colour. And this is where it all comes together and starts looking exactly how I envisioned it, adding the black stripes to the body. And this, I really like adding stripes to the dolls. It's really fun. So I really enjoy doing this cat, and I'm just sort of freestyling it. I have some reference images up on my computer to make sure I'm getting some that marbling effect right. But yeah, I really enjoyed doing the airbrushing on this one. Alright, so we're going to make the final piece of the puzzle now, and that is one bum hole and some poop props. Poops. So basically I do the butthole by rolling out a ball of Sculpey, Super Sculpey, so that's a beigey translucent coloured one, and just sculpting in the little pucker details of butthole. So that's one piece done. The next piece is obviously the poop prop, so I'm using Sculpey, a brown coloured. I was tossing up between a few different shades, but I ultimately went with the darker brown. And basically what I did with this one is I really roughly rolled it out, so it still had those little details and lines in it, so it looked like proper poop. So I only made 3 pieces for this one, but yeah, Poopy Cat does come with poop props, so just keep that in mind. And then the last little step is adding the extra details like some fake poop and also some whiskers. So I have a whisker tutorial in my shop if you're interested in how I do them, but that's pretty much it for this one. So a bit of a delayed video. So this guy is looking for a home. Payment plans are welcome. Just send me a message and I can let you know how they work. But yeah, thanks for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed learning how to make a poopy cat. So let me know in the comments what type of cats you want to see, what type of action cats you want me to see. Want me to make, and yeah, leave a like, comment, follow, all that stuff. You can find me on TikTok and Facebook, Instagram, and keep an eye on my videos on YouTube. So I'll catch you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye.